Before we begin, viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following is for educational and entertainment purposes. Only this is the verbatim federal courtroom testimony of the Sean Diddy Combs trial, as reported by Inner City Press. What horrifying truth from the hands of Sean Diddy Combs brought down the steel icon and left him broken before the court? Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, former WWE champion, action superstar, Hollywood icon, entered the courtroom. Not in a crimson tuxedo or the signature body-fit shirt seen on red carpets, but with a shattered expression, red-rimmed eyes, hands trembling as he gripped the microphone. He uttered words no one, not a soul in that room was prepared to hear, not lines from a blockbuster film, but a genuine confession under oath. Before the jury, with one name alone cited as the center of a nearly 2-decade-long obsession, Sean Diddy Combs. And when The Rock recounted a ritual involving a final challenge dish, confinement in a basement, and loyalty measured by humiliation, Hollywood seemed forced to a standstill. But what exactly happened during those initiation rituals he mentioned? And why for 20 years did he not dare to speak out? No warning signs, no media leaks, no whispers in the halls. The courtroom was already tense with testimony from Monique Denzel Washington and Jamie Foxx commanding every ounce of attention. Then the door swung open and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson stepped in, freezing the room in its tracks. The image of the confident hero inspiring millions was gone. In its place stood a man, weary eyes tinged with sorrow, bearing the weight of an inner burden. His signature brows no longer radiated strength, but etched emotions too raw to hide. He arrived with no papers, only an untold secret. Diddy, seated with his lawyers, turned his face betraying surprise and strain. Diddy's legal team huddled in a rush, clearly unprepared for this turn. The prosecutors exchanged quiet glances, their eyes silently confirming the gravity of this moment. They knew it would change everything as Dwayne approached the witness stand. He paused, gripped the microphone, and looked directly at the judge. "Your Honor, may I say a few words before we begin?" The judge nodded, opening a tense new chapter. Dwayne Johnson stood still, his gaze sweeping the courtroom, lingering on the jury, then turning to Sean Diddy Combs, his heart tightening, chest heavy with pain. He took a deep breath, his voice trembling yet resolute. "I didn't want to stand here at all, but my conscience wouldn't let me run from this for nearly 2 decades. A silent dread has knotted at my soul. I'm still afraid, truly afraid, but what chills me more is the thought of staying silent forever." Dwayne raised his hand to take the oath, his fingers trembling slightly as he sat bracing to confront his past. His voice, low and hoarse, wasn't for dramatic effect, but carried the weight of long-buried emotions. "Everyone knows me as The Rock, the image of an unyielding man never brought down. But today I feel like I'm standing on the edge of collapse. I hope everyone in this room understands that the story I'm about to share isn't just about Sean Combs. It's also about how he concealed his actions for years, his lips pressed tight, his eyes clouded by a thin veil of tear. He paused, breathing deeply to steady himself. "I was once part of that crowd," he said, voice thick with bitterness. "The ones who believed that to survive you had to play by the rules I did, and the cost was a wound." No one could see the confession hung heavy in the courtroom, a prelude to a painful story that would unveil Hollywood's dark corners. Dwayne prepared to recount a haunting journey beginning from his early days stepping into Hollywood. The journey began in 2001. Dwayne, fresh from the wrestling ring and diving into film with Scorpion King, carried a burning ambition and grand dreams. Yet a naive innocence. Diddy appeared as a guide. He recalled, voice heavy with sorrow. "He seemed like the key, the one who could open every door in Hollywood one day." Diddy said, "We need to talk privately." Dwayne nodded, thinking it was just a routine business discussion, a necessary step in the industry. Diddy invited him to exclusive parties at lavish villas in Los Angeles and Miami. At first it felt light, champagne glasses sparkled, handshakes were warm, and producers, studio staff, and casting directors mingled. "Everyone told me Denny was the key, the essential bridge," he said, eyes distant, but gradually the mood shifted. The gathering stopped, being networking opportunities, and felt like cryptic tests did. He began asking odd questions. "What are you willing to do to reach the top? Would you sacrifice everything?" Dwayne forced an awkward smile, trying to shake off the unease, but Diddy's face remained unyielding. Then came the strange requests. One night, Diddy told him to come to a house in the hills at 2:13 a.m., explaining, "That's when real decisions are made." Dwayne arrived full of doubt and found himself alone for over an hour. Then a group of men in black suits entered, silent as ghosts, not a word spoken. The scene felt like a mysterious ritual, as if they awaited a leader. When Diddy appeared, he turned off the lights, and from hidden speakers, his voice echoed, repeating, Are you worthy? Are you ready? Will you accept what we offer? Dwayne told himself it was just an eccentric style, a creative test of show, but deep down his instincts screamed something was wrong. He wrestled with the urge to leave, but fear of losing opportunities, and the challenge to his pride kept him there. The unease grew when Diddy asked him to a secret location outside Los Angeles. Just the two of them. Dwayne hesitated, wanting to refuse, but his agent advised, "This could be the break to shape your career." He looked at the jury, voice tinged with sadness. They were right, it changed everything, but not how I hoped. When he mentioned the final challenge dish, the room fell silent. Shock gave way to a creeping dread that seeped into every corner. Dwayne paused, eyes shut tight, as if struggling to drag the painful memory back. His voice broke, choked with emotion. "This is something I've never dared tell. Not to friends, not even to my wife. I kept it hidden." He took a deep breath and continued that night. "I was blindfolded and taken to a remote mansion outside Los Angeles. I asked the driver where we were going, but he stayed silent, just turned up the music to drown out my question. When he arrived, two men led him into a dim room, the only light emanating from flickering candles and glowing red lanterns scattered across the floor. The walls draped in black fabric created a stifling atmosphere, as if stepping into a secret ritual. 5 men in suits sat around a low table, silent. Their gazes cold and unyielding. At the head of the table sat Diddy, a serene smile playing on his lips, holding a crystal glass, filled with a dark, viscous liquid that looked like oil. The room was oppressive, the scent of burning wax mingling with the chilly air, filling him with unease. Then a man in a white robe emerged, carrying a steel tray, without a word. He placed it before Dwayne and lifted the lid on the tray. Lay something indescribable, a soft, pale, damp substance, still faintly warm. Unseasoned, Dwayne bowed his head, his voice trembling. I looked down and my heart seemed to stop. Diddy spoke, "Everyone who wants to succeed must do this. Those who refuse disappear." Then he commanded the others to stare at me, as if to make me feel the crushing weight of their scrutiny. He wanted to flee, his heart pounding, sweat pouring down. I glanced at the door, but it was locked. He recounted, his voice quivering. I asked, "Is this a joke? A ritual?" I tried to laugh to ease the tension, but no one responded. Silence enveloped the room, their piercing gazes cutting through me. Diddy slowly handed him a spoon, leaning close to whisper, "Hollywood doesn't need talent, it demands submission." Those words struck like a blade slicing into Dwayne's pride. Tears welled up as he confessed, "I was terrified, humiliated, and alone. I felt trapped with no way out." His hand shook as he gripped the spoon, an intense internal struggle raging within. "I didn't want to do it," he said, his voice choking. But the pressure of their stares, Diddy's words, and the fear of losing everything made him falter. He lifted the spoon and took the first bite. "I don't remember the taste," he whispered, eyes brimming with tear. Only the laughter that erupted in the room, the sound of my own chewing, and the deadly silence that followed. He sat there for 30 minutes under the cold, watchful eyes of those around him, completing the horrific ritual. When it was over, Diddy stood, clapped his hands, and said, "Welcome to the next step." Dwayne faced the jury, his voice laden with pain. I walked out of that room feeling like a part of my soul had died. Not because of what I ate, but because of what I sacrificed, my dignity. My very self. That ritual haunted him for years. I started therapy soon after he revealed. I sat in that room trying to describe the humiliation, the fear that I'd become someone else, but I couldn't fully speak of it, because just thinking of that scene, the dark room, the red lanterns, that dish made it impossible to breathe. His therapist helped him confront the turmoil, but the memory of that ritual remained an unhealed scar. The courtroom fell silent. His story was not just about a horrific ritual, but a testament to the cost of silence. "I lost sleep night after night," he said, his voice steadier in therapy. "I learned to name the pain, but I still wrestle with the thought that I was complicit in my silence." After the ritual, Diddy and the others treated him differently, as if he had joined their ranks, that they kept testing him, ensuring he would stay silent, remain obedient. He was invited to what he thought was a work retreat at a secluded desert estate. But upon arrival, there were no agents or studio executives, only a few other artists. Some newcomers, some established, all visibly uneasy. They were confined in windowless rooms, their phones confiscated, music played incessantly, looping for hours. Food arrived irregularly, and they were instructed to memorize bizarre scripts, muttering pledges of submission to the power of success. I thought it was some elite training. He said, his voice heavy, but then I realized they wanted me to mistake fear for loyalty, pain for progress. Dwayne paused, his gaze distant. I didn't dare speak up. afraid others would think I was strange. I saw my colleague's eyes in the hallways, haunted looks like we were all trapped in the same nightmare. The Last Supper ritual and the trials that followed left him sleepless, disoriented, questioning who he was. I felt like I was being turned into a tool shaped by invisible hands, he said. Through therapy, his psychologist helped him see that the ritual wasn't just a test, it was how they used silence to control him. After that, film opportunities came flooding in, but they were laced with strings. They told me, "Did he vouch for you?" He recalled a studio executive was blunt. "You know how to play the game." And that's what matters. When he questioned the contracts, they warned that opportunities would vanish if he didn't comply. Diddy wasn't just a producer. He had connection, stakes, and the power to blackball. Once he declined a late-night party, and the following week, his agent called a major studio, had pulled him from a film he'd been preparing for months. I realized silence wasn't just expected. It was mandatory, he said, his voice tinged with sorrow. In therapy, he grappled with the feeling of being controlled, questioning whether he'd lost himself to that ritual. To that silence, the ritual wasn't just an event, it was a shadow that haunted him. I spent hours with my therapist trying to understand why that scene, the dark room, the red lanterns, the steel tray, and the pressure of their stares still made me tremble. He shared, "I feared I'd given up too much, that I was no longer the Dwayne I used to be." But through therapy, the support of his family, and seeing other witnesses bravely speak out against Did's crimes, he slowly found strength, realizing that breaking the silence was the only way to heal and protect others. He looked around the room, his voice resolute. "Today I'm here to shatter that silence so no one else has to endure what I did." Dwayne Johnson continued recounting his Hollywood journey, where he gradually realized the industry wasn't built solely on talent or hard work. He described a complex system where relationships traded favors, and a culture of silence shaped one's path. "I started feeling like I wasn't fully in control of my career," he said, his voice steady, reflecting deep introspection. He recalled a white party at a lavish Hollywood Hills mansion, billed as a private film screening, an industry networking event. But upon entering, he sensed an eerie atmosphere. The lighting was dim, security guarded every exit, and phones were confiscated at the door. Guests were handed masks, seemingly to conceal their identities. As Dwayne moved through the rooms, unease gripped him. He recognized familiar faces, actors, musicians, directors, but their behavior was strange, as if they were straining to meet some unspoken expectation. In a hallway corner, he spotted a young actor clutching a drink, trembling eyes red. Rimmed. When Dwayne checked on him, the actor whispered, "They say this is the price you pay." The words struck him like a blow. He left early, returning home unable to sleep. "I wondered what I'd unwittingly stepped into," he shared with the courtroom. "I wasn't there for my worth, but because they thought I'd stay silent." Blaine looked straight ahead, his voice clear. "People ask why we actors, musicians, athletes don't speak out when we see something wrong. I'll be honest, because we're afraid." He recounted how early in his career, he was taught that survival meant staying agreeable, not asking questions, and avoiding upsetting those in power. His silence wasn't agreement, but fear of consequences, being sidelined, losing opportunities, or being labeled difficult. He spoke of colleagues who left the entertainment industry spotlight, not for lack of talent, but from exhaustion. They were tired of hiding, of feeling controlled. He said he too lay awake many nights questioning whether keeping secrets made him part of the problem. "You start doubting yourself, doubting those around you," he admitted. The courtroom grew tense as Dwayne locked eyes with Diddy. He spoke with a calm yet weighty voice. "I want to say this man to man, because I've held it in too long." There was no shouting, no forceful gestures, but his words cut deep with their raw sincerity. "I once believed that to succeed, I had to compromise myself, sacrifice my integrity just to secure a place, and I bought into that." He shook his head, his gaze resolute. "But that's not strength, it's fear masquerading as influence." He spoke of others, those who hadn't yet found the courage to speak out, those still silently enduring. "I'm speaking for them, for those told they had no choice, that dignity and dreams can't coexist." Turning to Cassie Ventura's legal team, Dwayne said her decision to speak out had shifted how he viewed his own silence. "It made me realize that silence only protects what should never be shielded," he declared on the stand. He was no longer just an icon of strength. He was a man confronting his silent past, now choosing to speak. Dwayne took a deep breath, scanning the courtroom. "I'm not here to destroy anything," he said. "I'm here because I want the young people, those who look up to me, to understand that silence isn't strength. It's a responsibility to yourself and to those who can't yet speak." Dwayne Johnson paused on the witness stand, his gaze unwavering. "You don't control my life anymore," he said, his voice low and clear, as if unburdening a long-held weight. As he stepped down, he concluded, "It ends here with the truth." He left the courtroom not as a victim or a headline, but as a man who had reclaimed his story. Overcoming fear and silence, as the bailiff escorted him from the stand, a soft murmur rippled through the gallery before passing through the door. Dwayne paused, not addressing anyone specific, not the press but the entire room. "I want one more thing on the record," he said, his voice firm. "My story isn't just about me. It's not about fame, scandal, or headline. It's about those who never got to sit here, those who didn't survive to speak, and those still trapped behind the line, afraid no one will believe them." He leaned slightly forward, his words directed at the jury. "The judge and the culture that had enabled silent Hollywood has thrived for decades on a lie that power justifies wrong, that success has an unquestionable price. But that lie is unraveling, not through anger, not through vengeance, but through truth." He drew a deep breath. "I stayed silent because I feared losing everything. But the truth is, I had nothing if I lost myself." A quiet swell of support rose from one corner. The judge didn't interrupt. Dwayne nodded to anyone watching, wondering if it's safe to speak out. "This is your sign the silence is over. We're not afraid anymore." He walked out, no cameras, no handlers, intervening, just a man choosing truth, confronting a system that no longer knows how to hide.